a great poll, a great webinar. And without further ado, I am going to pass it to you, Kim.
Thank you, Carrie, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for our first session of 2021's Engineering Webinar Series. So you may be joining us today because you enjoy pandering to a holiday theme as much as I do, and if so, happy early Valentine's Day to you. Maybe you're interested specifically in love waves or earthquakes, or are looking for ways to make your library resources more enjoyable. Whatever reason that you're joining us today, definitely glad you did. And I'm excited that you've chosen to spend the next about half hour with us making a brief look into what love waves are, what they do, and how scientists are kind of harnessing the power of love waves for good. So as a brief introduction, my name is Kimberly Pierce, and I'm an engineering customer consultant here at Elsevier. I have a background in conservation and policy, as well as geospatial science. And at Elsevier, I'm a Mind Life champion, which is basically our version of a peer-to-peer mental health advocate. And I have been helping to develop a set of best practices for user engagement. One of the best things I love about this job is being able to hear about maker spaces within libraries. So if you have those stories, please send them along. Outside of work, I've taken up lost wax carving and casting. And I had a pretty stellar garden going on during the warmer months. So that's basically who I am and who you're hearing from today. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as I mentioned, I have a background in geospatial science, but I'm not a geologist. So that's different sides of a very similar coin. So to find out more about love waves, I really need to start with the basics. So generally, when we're thinking about we think of Engineering Village and other ANI databases as good starting points for that kind of work. But we can actually use Novel as a way to find more about a topic as well. And so one of the reasons I want to do that is because I like to think of it as there being a lot of hidden gem content in Novel. And that's where our story is going to begin. So I'm going to start here because I know that there are definitions within the platform. And you'll find that in content type when performing a basic search. So if you're watching, you saw that I did just search love waves, and you'll see here we have all books and texts and definitions. So if I wanted the definitions only, I would go here and I could start right basically there. So I've previously done this search and read through some of these options because there's, you could get a definition from the Dictionary of Earth Science. You could get it from construction and surveying. It really depends on how additionally you'd like to narrow down your results. So instead of parsing through this now in the interest of time, I'm going to take you through to the results that I've previously saved in my novel. So I'm going to go here, click my novel, go to my novel. And I'm going to pull up the different resources within this Love Waves folder that you can categorize. I'm creating folders here. I'm going to scroll on down. See, it says Dictionary of Geology and Earth Science. That's where I decided to start my search. So I'm pulling up this resource, and you can tell along the top here that I've already made annotations to this saved resource. So I can click this and turn this back on if I'd like, and I can see what I've saved and where, so it's highlighting it. And anytime you're in a resource, you can save it to your My Novel just by clicking this star up here. So that's how you would do that. And if you want to make an additional notation, you can just click and hit add notation. Oops, a little bit, add note, and that will give you an additional notation. But anyway, so that's how you would start getting some of the background information that you're looking for. You'll also have noticed that I saved, additional content here in this folder. Some of this would be, we have Lord Riley. That's a little bit of a teaser for what's to come, but here it just says historical note. And this is some of the juicy bits that I'm telling you about that are here in Novel. So not only are you getting some of that scientific content, but you're also getting it within a historical context, which is, I thought, a pretty interesting addition Because here it's telling you all about the, as we'll find out, Dr. Love, who's discovering these love waves, but I'm getting ahead of us. So, and briefly, oops. And briefly looking into love waves, like we just quickly did in novel, our search is revealing these. This is the resource we were just quickly looking at. That love waves are surface waves named after the mathematician and physicist Augustus Love, aka Dr. Love. But what's this? If we're reading this just a little bit more in depth, um, it's mentioning that these waves start out traveling faster than Rayleigh waves. But who's that? Who's Dr. Rayleigh? Who's this? Why are they named after him? So just because we only have about 20 minutes, I'm going to spoil it for you. We're not going to research it together. Rayleigh waves, they're named after Lord Rayleigh here. He was another mathematician who was working about the same time. So again, full of historical gossip, that novel. Were these two collaborators or peers? They lived about the same time, like I was saying. So being that they both studied elasticity in mathematics, quite possible. It's also quite possible there was this bitter rivalry, one being from Oxford, the other from Cambridge. So there's got to be a way that we can find out. And as luck would have it, there is. So again, we're going to go back into the platforms. This time, we're going to try out Engineering Village. We're going to give novel a bit of a rest. And so before I get a little too carried away with creating a storyline here because of the season and being cooped up, I'm going to confirm for you right up front, these are science-focused, peer-reviewed databases, not gossip magazines. So I can't really tell you if there truly was any sort of rivalry here, but what we're going to do is the absolute least and check to see if they've ever collaborated. And so what we're going to do is just check some databases of interest. So we're going to do Compendex, and then we'll also, since we're looking at seismic waves, do GeoBase and GeoRef. And I want to narrow my results to authors. So I'll do author and I'll do love. Then I'm going to add a field, keep the and I'll do author again. And then, well, I've already searched it, so I'll type it again. No results. I'm calling it. There was a rivalry. Done. Easy. Rivalry declared. But we all know that we can never really truly know what's going on between two hearts. So we're going to take a little deeper look into the trends that these waves are named after. So what we're going to do, let's just go back to Engineering Village. Let's start fresh. And we're just going to search in Compendex. We're going to search all fields here, and we'll do love again. And then all fields, we'll do Rayleigh one more time. So let's see what's happening. Okay, so we get about 985 results. But if we want to just keep it recent, what we can do is we limit that to the past few years plus the articles and press. And what this is showing us is there's still 246 records. So Love and Rayleigh waves together as a team are still going pretty strong in terms of research here. And what we can also do is we can take a look at this control vocabulary, and this is going to show us here these trends that researchers are really trying to keep it pretty fresh and looking at the new approaches to these surface waves. That's a little bit more than crust deep, if you will. So this is turning out to be a promising story after all. So you can see all the different types of research that's being done on these types of waves. But, you know, none of this is really yet answering your questions about, you know, what exactly are love waves? And I get that. We're not there yet. So, oops. What is a love wave? Why was there this ominous picture of a railway that was in disarray in that first slide? there's a number of ways that you can approach this search, and I'm going to delve into that right now. And obviously there's a peek that you're going to get a slide that's going to show you what's going on here. But what you could do is if you wanted to get into that breadth and depth of research, you would go into Engineering Village. You could go into Novel if you wanted to find textbook coverage like we were seeing before, or technical resources, plots, graphs, data. Or you could even go into, a resource that we haven't talked about yet, which is Geosciences, and then you can explore how that research is spatially distributed. But what I'm going to do is show you the part of my search, and then, of course, the slide. That is really a summary of information that I found within all three platforms. But I'm going to focus on the content that I selected from within Novel, because it really provided me like the most visually expressive range of content, from the basic geology text to a more intensive mathematical analysis of seismic waves. So again, I'm going to just go back into if we do Love Wave and you look at this books results, you can even see here there's basic seismic refraction. You can see the different titles. There's ultrasonic, electromagnetic, NDE, treatises for geophysics, such and such. But again, remember I did this already, so we're just going to go back into my Novel. There's a quick refresher how to get into it. And so if I were, a really seasoned geologist and looking for a model heavy resource, I could go into Novel and find a resource such as this one that's talking about love waves in a highly mathematical way, and going really deep into the science of, how things are being modeled. What I could even do, if I'm so inclined, is then along the left here, there's equations. In this equations, we have like an equation builder and a solver worksheet that you could even use to work out these equations based on your own data. But what I'm looking for, and what's a little bit more palatable, is something more expressive. So if I'm looking for just like an introduction to what these waves are, so I can find that information here as well. So the different wave types, how they work, that information is readily available. And there's even a resource here that I'd like to show you, and you've already gotten a taste of it. And again, I'll turn on my notes so we can be brought to it. But you'll see here that this image is featured on my slide. And normally we think of going to Google for images, but you can actually find a lot of images within these various platforms that are going to suit your needs. And I think one of the benefits of finding the image directly in this content as well is not only is it already vetted for you, but then you do have that citation here so that you don't have to, one, find the citation and create it yourself, but you can basically just cut and paste it, which is what I've done on this slide. So now we can go onto this slide, and I'll summarize what these waves are. So the fastest waves and the first waves to be measured following earthquakes are these P waves, these primary waves. And these are longitudinal and compressional. They're, they vibrate back and forth. The second ones that show up on the scene, these are the properly named secondary waves, those S waves. So they're half as fast. And so they're, secondary. Then they get the surface waves. Now, these are the Love and the Riley. So we're just going to focus on Love because I got to speed it up a little bit if we're going to get through it all. So the Love waves, they're a little bit of a hothead in the crowd, and they cause immense damage. So they don't have any vertical motion, but they do push, rocks in a shearing motion, twisting and wriggling, kind of like a snake, if you think about it. So you get damage that looks like a snake wriggling on the ground, but also damage that can kind of look something like this, really pretty unimaginable. So you might be thinking, this is, pretty terrifying. I thought this was going to be, like a love story. And It is, but we're going to skip that part. You can look that up. Basically, I was just going to show you a brief thing about, Yellowstone being a nightmare of a super volcano. But you can use Geosciences, just search volcano and search Yellowstone and limit it to the United States, much like the search we're about to do, and you will find unsettling news. We're going to skip to the good parts. So all of that destruction in the past and the desire of some of our brightest to really prevent it in the future has led to vast improvements in earthquake monitoring sensors. But there's still a lot to learn and to improve upon, and we've come pretty far. So researchers are looking for alternative applications for seismic waves. And while we typically think of Engineering Village as the go-to resource for keeping on top of these trends, Geofacets actually offers a really interesting spatially based way that we can understand research being done. So for example, we do love waves. We get a decent amount of results all across the globe. So, if I'm coming to it from a point where I'm North America focused, I want that most recent content, and I want to focus more on georeference maps so that I can complete like an analog search or like a spatial analysis in like either Google Earth or ArcMaps in the future. I can narrow my search just to that using these over here. So I could do, maps, georeferenced. I could do limiting by dates. I could jump over here to North America. And I could further, if I wanted to do a rectangle refine. But before we do any of that, I just want you to take a look here. So these are some of the images that you would be able to find that you could further use in a presentation if you were putting one together. So again, lots of great imagery that you can find. And so these actually aren't even, so you see you have 685 images that you could look at. These are just the first ones that pop up. Lots of good content here. And so for some of the source documents, if you take a look at some of these titles, now I know it's probably coming by really slow. Some of the interesting applications that come up for these love waves are exploring these magma chambers that are underlying calderas. You can harness these waves from local traffic noise and then use them to study the different substrata of an area. People are using them to uncover the internal structure of one of the most active volcanoes in Mexico. And they're even exploring how waves affect ecology in different regions and how different seismic activity of the past has shaped how that region has developed. It's pretty unending and really limited to your imagination. And so from here, we could even, of course, like I was saying, if you wanted to limit it to just the United States, you could even just do it that way if you're so inclined. And of course, if you were looking for the analogs based on this, you could go into your source documents and find that content and then broaden from there. It's really easy to reverse or change your views. So in wrapping up, I know it's very a quick overview of what you can do across the 3 platforms, but hopefully this scenario is highlighting that it's still possible to make data searching feel, in a way, fresh and new. Though it can be a challenge, harkening back to what you love about a specific platform and thinking about ways to tweak your approach to using those features even ever so slightly, might help you and your users to really find new ways of looking at resources that you have access to and finding innovative ways to seek information that's already readily available within your subscriptions. So today, within Novel, what we did is we put our scenario into a broader historical context of sorts. And allowed ourselves to look at a topic from basic introduction into deep exploration of the physics. Now, granted, we did just very briefly skim the surface of that, but that's something that you could do in your work or with your user community. In Engineering Village, we could extrapolate what we've done to think about past collaborations, but also future trends of the topic. And in Geofacets, what we could do is put current research into a visual global context and consider the possibility of analogs. So you can use this as a way to rediscover your love of research, and the information that's out there, it's just waiting for you. So I know Carrie is going to also briefly speak with you now about our YouTube page.
I am. Thank you so much, Kim, for a really informative session. Indeed. So I want to bring to everyone's attention as we're getting ready to wrap up here that the Elsevier for Engineering YouTube space is open for business. So there on this space, you will indeed find all of the 2020 webinars that we produced, along with some other really wonderful content from other divisions of our engineering team. But it is all consolidated there. We do also have, for those that can't necessarily access YouTube within their internal infrastructure, we do have all of these recordings available, password protected, for your promotion needs and otherwise. So we did want to bring that to everyone's attention. YouTube is new for 2021, and we'll just keep building. But before I get into any questions, wanted to take a quick poll to see if, let's see here. Actually, you know what? Give us a thumbs up, if you will, regarding if you found this useful. I'm hoping that was the case. And then, sorry, here we go. We can launch the poll. Here is the poll for the ending of this session. We want to know what you thought. Would you like more information on ways to engage your user community? You can give us a yay or nay on that. There's an opportunity to vote. Is there a topic you'd like to see us cover in future? Is there a topic you'd like to see us cover in future webinars? So this is kind of a question. We didn't give you the mechanism to answer specifically, but what I'm going to do is ask you to certainly reach out to your customer consultant, or heck, pop that topic here in the chat. And did you find this session helpful? Very simple. So I'm going to give it maybe 3 more seconds. Well, let's say 10 seconds. Thank you so much for answering, those of you that have already done that. Well, we're doing very well on did you find this session helpful? So that is wonderful. And more information on ways to engage our user community for sure. So I want to thank everyone for answering those questions. And it does look like we have a question. Can you email us the YouTube link? Absolutely. We can, in fact, we can go ahead and post that up here for your use. I think Kim had a slide on that as well. So it was in the slide. So I will, this will be available on this recording, and we can go ahead and email the YouTube link for sure. As far as any other questions, can you show us how to save searches in EV or Novel? Is that something that we're able to do?
Yeah, definitely. So let me go back into, okay, so if we are in Novel, so when we are here, in our LoveWave search, what we could do is along the top, you see where you've done your search, it's showing up along the search bar. You have the option to share or save. So long as you are a registered user and logged in, you can just hit the star and you can save. So I have a couple different folders set up. And what I can do is, since I have already created a folder by hitting the create folder here, I just go ahead and I will select my LoveWaves and I hit add this resource, and it will save my search to this folder. So that's how you would do it here. And of course, if you're ever getting stuck in the platform and you're not sure what to do, you'll notice where it says video. And the video will show you the different features and how to use them on each page. So very similarly, in Engineering Village, you have that option as well to save your searches. And you can, right here, hit save search. And you can, I'll just say LoveWaves. And it's going to show you the search term that you created, and it's going to save my search. You can also, if you wanted, create an alert. And so if I create an alert when new content is available, I'll get updates on this content sent directly to the email address that I have. And yep, so it's that simple. I just create the button. Yeah.
Kim, I'm going to add on to the second half as far as novel was concerned. Folks are also wondering when it comes to possibly finding equations that might be, I would suspect, probably more civil engineering related. Is that something that we can get to in a quick, efficient manner in novel somewhere?
Yeah, so with equations, oftentimes you can find them if you wanted to just search them, if you know the name of the equation you're looking for. But otherwise, along the left-hand bar here, you hit equations, and you can just click into the equations home. And that will bring you into the interactive equations, and it's going to show you what types of different equations they're categorized here into different categories, what's available to you. And so let's see, I'm just going to actually, because of time, just going to click into this one, geotechnical. And so, sorry, say again?
Active earth pressure based on.
Okay. Yep, and you can click into it, and it's going to here give you the name. It's going to give you a brief explanation, the citation of where it comes from, the actual equation itself, and then you can open up that worksheet. And this is where you can start modifying the equation with like your variables of interest.
Okay, Kim, well, I think this was a very popular topic. We do have a couple more questions, but we have run out of time. So I guess what I'd like to do is encourage folks, Kim, if you could flash to the screen for the next webinar, which is actually focused on InSpec analytics, being able to